episode. I'm going to call it 1.5 because I know we said that we were doing bi-weekly episodes.
Adam.
Okay, I'll stop counting. As always, I'm Adam. I'm joined here with Matt as per usual, but then we also have a couple star guests to talk about our star topic today. Andrew and Marvin. And we're all here to talk about Indy Open. How are you guys doing tonight?
Great.
Doing great. Great.
Yeah. So Marvin, Andrew, do you guys kind of want to introduce yourselves, where you're out of, who you people are?
Sure. I'll start. My name's Marvin. We're out of the Cincinnati area, the Cincinnati Outpost, and we kind of run and organize the Star Wars Legion scene out of and around this greater Cincinnati area.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm Andrew. I also help him with that. We build all of our own tables and organize all of our events and leagues and such. We have Discord too.
Yeah. Andrew's the humble one at the batch. He's like, yeah, I'm Andrew. I'm here too.
I'm also here.
The humble one in the batch that probably does more of the outreaching work. I'm just better at talking under pressure.
The outreaching work.
We were definitely lucky enough to have you guys come out, help us TO the Indy Open, which happened this past weekend, which, as I alluded to, is pretty much all we're talking about today.
Hey.
So a little bit of housekeeping beforehand. Keep an eye out, as always, on our website over at indianapolisgarrison.com. We're hopefully getting more articles up there. I know we have a couple in the works right now. Also with the YouTube over at Indy Garrison on YouTube's over there. I couldn't remember what I was saying for a second. Hopefully get more videos out there within the week as well.
Yep. To add to that, Adam, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But if you guys are keeping an eye on our YouTube, we should be keeping those Twitch videos that we posted, that we live streamed during the Indy Open. Those should be going up within the next week or two. I think Joe has been editing those furiously. So we should be getting those up soon. I know David's been working on an article, so we should see another Republic article coming up. So Adam, didn't mean to interrupt, but just wanted to give some specifics.
And then I was going to say also a couple of videos hopefully coming up soon, talking about stuff like Bosk and Rebel Mandos for a sneak peek, to give you a little something ready to talk about. Without further ado, as I've said like 3 times now, we're here to talk about Indy Open.
Open. As
you 3 are the ones that ran it this past weekend, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about it?
So I'll jump off. I was head TO of the Indy Open here, so starting off with that. The format, we did a 2-day format. It was originally set to be 6 rounds. We ended up doing 5 rounds and a cut to the top 2, mainly due to travel schedules and a few hiccups that kind of happened during the tournament. Just a few health issues and things like that we wanted to make sure everyone was safe and was doing just good things. So we ended up doing 5 rounds with a cut to top 2. We had 49 players across 7 different states. I think we had one guy fly out from Oklahoma. We had a couple from Pittsburgh, a couple from the Ohio, Illinois, Kentucky area. Yeah, and my 2, Marvin and Andrew were 2 of my 4 judges. Brent was also judging with me, just to make sure we had enough staff. And I think Marvin and Andrew, Marvin ended up being a bye for somebody that dropped day 2, and Andrew ended up jumping in day 2 just to keep us at an even number, so no one had to, just eat the bye. Which is a great thing to have. So they were extremely helpful. I think it went great, but I will let you guys kind of jump in what you thought worked, what you thought didn't work, what went well.
I really liked the event overall. I think you did a great job organizing it and running it. It's a lot of people. What did we cap out at? Like 48-ish?
It was 49 with you.
Okay.
So yeah.
So that's a lot of people and a lot of events.
and rumor was ACO was only 32, so that's crazy that we got bigger than them for a frontline event.
Especially when you consider that ours wasn't at a con or anything either.
Yeah.
Or it was not at a con. It was Friday, Saturday.
That's
right.
There was no World's Invite involved. So.
Right.
Stacking it on.
Dang.
So, look at us, like showing up the frontline people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that was cool. I don't like. I actually low key did end up liking the Friday Saturday thing a bit because you still had Sunday when you got back, so like you had like a day to recuperate. Cause, like a lot of the times when we go to these tournaments, these like 2-day events, you get back on Sunday, you're just tired. You still have to go to work on Monday. For most people,
Yeah,
at
you're just
least.
exhausted and kind of have to jump back into it. So it was nice to kind of have Sunday to recoup.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It kind of the all of Friday is like it was just kind of bonus Saturday to me. It was great.
Yeah.
So I will ask for both myself and for everyone listening, planning on potentially coming to the next one. Is I'm assuming we are going to have another one. Um, are we sticking with Friday Saturday, or are we going to Saturday Sunday?
Loaded questions right on the live podcast.
Oof.
As
Gosh,
always,
Adam.
put you on the
Yeah.
spot.
Show.
So I think for the Indy Open, I had such good feedback about it being a Friday, Saturday event. We had such good turnout for it. I would not see a reason to change it in the future if we continue to get attendance for this kind of format. I mean, I know it sounded like we did have a lot of people who can't make the Sunday cuts because of either Sunday religious activities or work commitments or other things. And so it was kind of a nice change of pace. So it just might kind of depend on what we do going forward and what kind of feedback we get.
I guess from here we'll cut to our interviews with the top four that we've had.
All right, so we're jumping into our interviews here with the top 8 from the Indy, or the top 4 from the Indy Open. Excuse me. We'll be doing an article of the top 8, so stay tuned for that. So with me right now is Matthew Gurgley. I believe I'm pronouncing that last name right. You can correct me if I'm not. So I'll have you introduce yourself. Kind of talk about how your experience in the Legion scene, and so tell us about yourself a little bit.
Thank you. My name is Matthew Gurgley. I'm from Vermilion, Ohio, which is on the lake, kind of in the Cleveland area. I'm currently going to college at Bowling Green State University, which is out a little bit towards Toledo, kind of close to the Michigan border. I started Legion, I'd say around 2019, right when the Clone Wars expansion came out. I was playing Warhammer before then. My buddy just got me into playing Warhammer, and I was playing Custodes. And I had played Warhammer a little bit, and my one good friend Paul Radosi, who owns the shop that I play at, and is also sort of the leader of our sort of competitive Legion group, Paul's Mandos. He said, like, I know you were very interested in the Clone Wars era, and they just released the Clone Wars version for this sort of Star Wars version of Warhammer, and I was just immediately hooked. And me and my buddy split a box, the core set box, and I took droids, and he took Republic, and the rest is history. I've been a loyal separatist since then, and I've been representing Grievous even in 2023. So
That is awesome. Yeah, repping Grievous even. That is crazy. So yeah, you were at the Indy Open this past. I think it's been 2 weeks now. But so tell us about your list. It made it all the way up to the number 4 slot out of 49. What's it look like? Give us a breakdown of that.
well, the list is called Greg's Merry Band of Mercenaries. Greg is just what
Good name.
the droids in the fellow separatists in the Droid Legion Discord nicknamed him. But the idea behind it was how do you it's a threat saturation list, and the threat was what can I throw in there that can help take a lot of pressure off of Grievous to make him more successfully land in the dive, make the dive more successful. And I had watched Lila Claire in the World's Championship at Adepticon, and I saw the Black Sun. I've not had a lot of experience with Black Suns beforehand, but I did know that. Most of my experience was maybe putting them in a snail tank and just driving them forward. That was the extent of my thought process on what could CIS do with Black Sun. But seeing that, and I kind of thought the idea, and I looked at Grievous's 2-pip, and it said that you can guardian other other non guardian units, and I thought, well, I could just have a bunch of B1's guardian Black Suns and just have them run up there and nuke something, and that was the general idea of the list. And so started off with Grievous. Of course, Grievous has running aggressive tactics and strict orders. Since I can remember, that was my go-to command slots I've taken with Grievous. Aggressive tactics, getting him a surge all the time, and other things. With droids are always going to have face-up orders, so just getting out surge tokens, B1s, for if you roll a defensive surge and you can spend it on a B1 just to keep an extra body up, I think it's worth it. Just and then next up, T series to help with getting orders out. So the list is built with Grievous T series, 6 core, 3 Black Suns with the typical logout with the Vigo and Magdet, 3 B1s with the E5Ss, and then a Magna Guard with the Rocket and Protector. The idea with the list was to essentially kind of have the Black Suns move forward. Black Suns have recon intel. Again, another sort of thing I took from the Lila Claire list at Adepticon. And the idea for that is to just have them kind of move forward and maybe get that extra around cover. A heavy cover is a lot easier to get in the new CRB rules. And the idea is just to get them as close as possible. And Grievous is right behind them, and it's kind of like, which one do you deal with first? And if you deal with one, and the other one comes right behind and starts messing you up, and
Absolutely.
so that's and so far it's been pretty good. So I say that.
It definitely seems like it. So you talked about your strategy a little bit. Is there certain objectives or deployments that you shoot for that are better for your list that maybe helped you a little bit more than others?
Yeah, I definitely always want to try to go for long edge deployments. So battle lines, hemmed in, advanced positions, kind of. It can kind of be both ways, but you get that scout 1, which goes to scout 2 because I have recon intel for my Black Suns. Anything that gets me closer to the enemy, because my list is very heavily range 2 strong. The Magnas are range 2, even though they have a rocket. The Black Suns are range 1 to 2. Grievous with his gun is 1 to 2. And I do have some B1s with some E5Ss for that kind of range 4, 3 to 4 sort of, setup. This helps, but the strength of the list is I want to get close to you as soon as possible. And deployments, it is 9-ax, so I typically don't want to do deployments in which kind of favor high-ax. So I typically try to stay away of like Breakthrough. I did end up playing Breakthrough at Indy Open on stream against Adam. It was a great game. I was just luckily able to get more activations off the board than he was of me. And that's kind of I had to play aggressive the entire time because I was starting that game, behind essentially. So and that's kind of what you have to do with what you get. Because I also, another thing with this list is you definitely want to try to go for blue player. I want to play my battle deck.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you've got a lot of close range things, so that makes a lot of sense. So what are some things that ended up working in the list, and were there 1 or 2 things maybe that didn't work that you would change about the list after the weekend?
Black Suns always worked, and I was actually very surprised with the Hunter training upgrade on Grievous. There's a lot of times, like, with an emplacement trooper like a Mark II or the Shore Mortar, I would have a Magna or B1 just do like a chip damage, 1 wound on him, and then Grievous would just double move relentless, take a shot. He gets a free aim on his Annihilator gun, and then he could get 2 crits, pierce 1 off, and he could just finish off, and he could easily finish off an activation. So I was definitely very happy to see how Hunter paid off. And Hunter with his 1 pip, if you're getting in the middle of a bunch of wounded models, you just get an aim generated factory right there. There was a game against a CIS player, I think in round 4. Grievous went in there, he nuked them all, almost nuked a T series and nuked a couple of Magna Guards, all which gave him aims that just helped increase his damage potential. I was really hoping that Grievous got additional training slot, because there's so many training slots that could work well on him right now. Tenacity, up close and personal, Hunter. There's a lot of good options for the general right now, and I just feel like Hunter's just been what I've been working on. That's what has been working for me. With things that didn't kind of work well, sometimes the B1 E5S's, the game that I lost against Tyler, he just completely outranged me, and my range 4 stuff just could not compete to his, and he just had to simply push me off the middle objective. And once he killed 1 activation, I couldn't. This the attrition battle. I just couldn't outlast him. And those B1s just couldn't roll anything to kind of make up for that. He just completely outranged me, which is kind of the thing with this list is that once you get into range 2, I'm going to dominate, but until I get into then, you're gonna most likely have the
Right.
range advantage on me. So I would just say kind of the lack of a solid 3 to 4 gun line. Would be, I say, is sort of the shortcomings of the list, and that's kind of the B1 area.
Gotcha. Okay. So one last thing before we sign off here. Was there one or two standouts out of all your games? Maybe a good player, a unique list, cool moments? Like, what's one unique thing that really stood out to you? Or maybe two.
All the players that I played were very great players and even greater people. I believe four of the five of them I messaged after Discord and got to talk to them after. So just great people. The indie community has been very friendly and very helpful, and I'm thankful for that. If I could think of a standout moment, it would probably be, I think, Game 3, the last game of Day 1. We were playing on the Cincy people's their samurai Star Wars Vision table, and it was an attrition game of Intercept against I think it was a rebel player. I forget his name, but it was a rebel player who's playing Cassian triple snipers, and that's the list I don't want to play. Ranged Pierce is just going to melt the Black Suns, and there was a samurai tower that kind of was close to the middle objective, and my Black Suns and Grievous were just having their backs against the corner, just trying to avoid getting sniper shots, just so I could just cap the middle point of intercept. And then after I capped it twice, I'm like, okay, I'm out. I'm peacing out. I'm just gonna go run to my back point. I'm gonna win off kill points at worst case scenario. And it was a very exciting of him just trying to get the snipers around to try to get shots on my red save units, and he just completely ignored the B1s. The B1s went and did their own thing, and it was just kind of a cool like cat and mouse sort of thing with Cassie and K2SO and some snipers trying to get these Black Sun and Grievous. But that was probably my favorite moment.
That is really cool. Well, Matt, thanks for signing on with us, and hopefully we will be back again next year for the Indy Open. So stay tuned.
I'll be looking forward to it. Thank you.
All right, so we have Weston here, one of our top 4. Weston, I'm going to have you kind of introduce yourself a little bit, introduce kind of the list you ran at the Indy Open, and then we'll kind of dive through some questions for you.
Sure. So I'm from Columbus, Ohio. 2 of us came down, me, myself, and Matt Pearson. I ran my new tournament list that I've been working on. I've got a Super Tactical Droid, Cad Bane, 3B1, or not 3B1s, 6B1s, 5 of them with the E5S, and then 3 Staff Riders with Link Targeting Array.
Perfect. So, building that, you said this is kind of a typical list you run. So what is the strategy you shoot for? Are there certain deployments? Are there certain strategies that you kind of have to veer away from depending on what your opponent's list is? What's kind of your main game plan?
What I like best about this list, I'm not really afraid of any objective. Main game plan, clump all my B1s together in a nice big group, put the stabs on a side, and depending on what I'm facing, maybe we hit some range 4, maybe we run in for some range 3 shots right away, depending on how close we are. I only stay away from certain objectives if I'm facing a Jedi or a Force user. I like hostage exchange. It's weird, but I like it.
That is, yeah, that floors me.
Unless I'm facing Vader or Yoda, I won't face it against Vader or Yoda. Actually, I won round 5 against Anakin in hostage exchange.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So I'm really not too concerned about any particular objective. The staffs are going to swing around the side, try to pick off 1 or 2 units, staying out of range of everything else, and then when they die, they die. But it's a sad day, but it happens eventually in every game.
It does. Staffs don't live the whole time. So you played 5 rounds. Are there things that you felt like really worked, or things that you would change with the list? If viewers are kind of like looking at your list and they wanted to kind of implement it, what's some things you would recommend?
So I would like to get Kalani back in my list. I'm not sure where to do it yet. Because right now I'm running at 799 points, so I have no bid. I know Super Tactical Droid just came down 5 points, which is why I'm using him. and I added in the comms relay because I got those 5 points back. But let's see, if I were to get rid of, I'm not trying to add up time.
No, you're good.
Kalani. Aggressive tactics with the commanding presence. Yeah, I'm 4 points over, so if anyone can find me 4 points, I'm. I mean, I don't think anything can be dropped. I could drop a link targeting array, but in my opinion, I always misplay Kalani a little bit. I go too late. It's better for me just to have the free aim on the staff rather than waiting a Kalani to go. So,
and that's kind of the nice thing. You know kind of your play style and you're adjusting to what works for you. Yeah, for sure. So just a couple more questions here. If you looked at your games, you played 5 over the day. What were 1 or 2 standout moments? Was there particular games or something that just, really was like, all right, this was a cool moment. This was great action. This was a really intricate thing that pulled off in a competitive way.
I can give you. So I had 2 very, very close games, both against Indianapolis Garrison. One was against Adam. One was against Brian, the winner, obviously. Against Adam, I know that right on turn 0, I was stressed. His list. I hated it. It was just. By the end of turn 2, I thought I lost that game, and I was just my entire strategy changed. I was super aggressive. Cad Bane, I think Cad Bane had a bounty and a box, and normally at that point I would just go hide, but I couldn't. I charged in to his entire army, and I went into melee. It was ridiculous. And then the last turn I put out some immobilization tokens, jumped over a wall, and killed his officer that was holding 2 boxes, and I won the game for it. So
goodness,
it was crazy. And then against Brian, same thing. I was stressed out for turn 0. I deployed poorly, I think, but then I don't know if you ever popped over that game. That game ended with Brian holding 3 boxes, each of his box holders with 1 health. And
man,
I killed 500 points. I think he killed the single B1 squad. I just couldn't finish off those zombies. They kept coming back. So
the zombies will do it.
Yep.
Yeah. So after 5 games, what would be your biggest takeaway from the whole Indy Open experience? What worked well? What didn't? What would you love to see next year?
Oh, from my list or from Indianapolis?
Both. Just the event itself.
From my personal list, what doesn't work well, maybe it's because I'm not good at it, is getting Cad Bane his bounty. Probably because I always choose the hardest target. But that's my mistake, I suppose. As far as the Indianapolis Open goes, or the Indy Open goes, I liked it a lot. I liked the tables everyone brought. I liked the amount of people that showed up. I liked the space. The space was great. Having space in between all those tables was fantastic.
Yes.
Not having to walk down a huge row of tables to the other side, loved it.
Right.
If there was one thing I could change, because I personally participated in it, was that table contest, getting people to vote a little more.
Yes, that was the hard thing. We're going to have to figure out next year how to get more participation. We got a decent amount, but we didn't get nearly as much as I had hoped for. And I think I know the table you brought was ranked very high, if not 3rd. So okay. I can't say that.
That makes me happy.
Yes, it got really good marks. So, well, all right, Weston, that's all I have. Do you have anything else you want to kind of shout out about your list or your local area?
Yeah, so local Columbus area, we've got a lot of players here. We play at the Guard Tower mostly, and then there's a handful of us who also play at a store called the Dragon's Lair up in North Columbus. We run some leagues regularly, and we've got a couple store championships coming up. Everyone stay away. We want to win them. No indie people allowed. I'm just teasing. Right. We'll invite you out. They'll be a little smaller than the Indy Open was, though.
Fair enough.
Yeah, great group of people here, and lots of games. There's never a shortage of games to play.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Weston, and we would love to have you on again.
Excellent. I'll talk to you later.
All right. I am here with Tyler, runner-up at Indy Open. How are you, everyone? Tyler?
How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Yeah, pretty great. I know it's a little less weird for me being on here because obviously I'm one of the Garrison guys. And I've been on a couple episodes a little early on, but my work schedule prohibits me from our recording
Yeah,
sessions,
so it
unfortunately.
has been a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do a little bit of a dive into your list. So you went 5-1 on the weekend, only losing in the finals against Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, would you mind going through your list for us?
Yeah. So this is something I kind of toyed around with, and I had some variants of it prior to the points in errata. But it's more or less just a boss gun line. And Adam so kindly has my list pulled up on the screen, so y'all can take a look. But I have a 9-point bid, and it's with the generic super tack. So um, before, I couldn't quite find the right balance because I just didn't really see the value in the generic super tack for 95 points. I thought he was okay, but I didn't really have much of a bid. Before, it was only 4 points, and I I don't know. I just didn't really want to drop anything to bring Kraken or Kalani, especially Kraken because he doesn't have any sort of extra orders with direct. Um, but with the 5-point drop, I was kind of toying around and I realized I can get this potent of a range 4 gun line with a 9-point bid. Um, so yeah, it's the generic super tac droid with no upgrades. I don't think he needs anything, and B, I don't think there's anything that's that cheap that is worth it. We got a bunch of B1s, 6 of them to be total. 4 with the E5S and 2 with repair bots. Now, some people might think that the repair bots might be a little bit of an overkill. I think I got every single value out of all 4 of those charges throughout the weekend. Mostly on the Magna Guards, and when you're healing something as valuable as Magnas, like, you're gonna be so happy you spent those 12 points. And then speaking of Magnas, I got 2 of them with rockets. Pre the situational awareness nerf, it going up 2 points, I would slap situational on these guys like every day, all day. Wouldn't think twice about it, but now I just don't really see any training worth putting on them. And then just a BX commando sniper.
Just round it out, yeah.
Just a little extra pierce, which again came in handy. And when you have him sitting next to a super tac all game that can override him, turns out he can aim shoot all game and put in some pretty good work.
Yeah. So the one thing that I'm noticing about this list that kind of stands out to me is, and you've mentioned it, is a 9-point bid, despite it just being kind of like a standard gun line. Because I would think that like this list could pretty much be an all-comers list with what it has. So I'm just curious, how well did that 9-point bid work out for you?
Well, it was great. I ended up winning bid every single game I played. And there was one game I actually tied against an Anakin triple arc strike team list, where our decks were more or less kind of the same. So yeah, like it was great. Just every single time I walked up to a board, if I didn't really like one side or the other, I would usually take red. And then if we had completely different decks, I would just take blue. And just having the choice, because there were several games, now that battle decks are open information, I would just ask and be like, "What's your battle deck?" And they would show me, and usually I could tell just from the set of deployments or objectives if I wanted to be red or blue. Because sometimes, you somebody hands you their deck and it's the exact 4 opposite, conditions or whatever that you have, and it's kind of an easy choice.
Right. Yeah, so it sounds like, so the bid worked out, kind of typical strategy. I'm assuming it's just kind of you're sitting at range 4 and you're just kind of blasting everyone.
Yeah. I mean, the super tac feeds an aim to Bosk every turn, aim and a dodge, because he is a little squishy, but the dodge kind of helps. You pretty much have full order control every single turn. On turns you order Bosk, you just direct to the B1s and the chain on the super tac, and you got 4 special forces in the bag. and yeah, so it's very, very potent in that sense. On turns that you don't order Bosk, you usually have like 2 Magnas and Bosk in the bag, and like you usually want to go last with all of them anyways. So it's really really not that bad.
Yeah, so so looking at the order control here, yeah, pretty much always Bosk and the special forces in the bag, right? Because you just chain the battle droids to the super tech.
Yep. Yeah, I mean pretty much every single time. And then with the super tech having a face up, you can always just go with him like first if you're kind of looking for like a pass activation, because it is 11 acts, so you have a lot of time you could buy yourself if your opposition is somewhere between 9 and 10 acts and maybe has a force user or something like that. You can just, I mean, effectively just pass a bunch of turns just going with B1 snipers or the super tack and various things, waiting out the force user.
Yeah, I was just saying also it's kind of there's not a lot of like timing sensitive things here. I don't think, because you go with the super tech early to get those dodges out, and then maybe just hold the PK series droids till late, get those repairs
Yeah,
or their stores.
right.
Yeah,
I would hold my PKs till my last activation multiple times throughout my games. If they had anything I thought was like legitimately threatening to do some damage to Magnas or something. But yeah, most of the time it was just Bosk and some PKs, and you just hold them till last. And yeah, worked out every time. Holding Bosk till last, you pretty much get perfect information about what's going to happen next turn. Maybe like a lot of time you can kind of predict what a player's trying to do or what they're trying to set up. So Bosk just waiting till the very end with perfect information, you just can kind of shoot whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it worked out well. But you have any others? You have any standout moments from any of the games at Indy Open?
Well, it was really great. I had a lot of standout moments. I had great games. I think
Pick
one
one
of
or
the
two, yeah.
right. I think the funniest instance was me. Actually, it was a little bit before Indy Open. I was kind of joking in the Discords about Dark Troopers and how I just really didn't want to see them, even though I think my list is pretty well positioned against them. But I was kind of joking about how I didn't want to see them, and everybody was kind of ragging on me like, "Oh, we're gonna get you paired against Double Dark turn 1." And I walked up to the first table, and not only was it Double Dark, it was Triple Dark Troopers, Moff Gideon, of course, Triple Dark Troopers, and a bunch of nonsense. And I just kind of chuckled to myself. I was like, I thought they were kidding.
And obviously that game went well for you. I remember how that game went. I was kind of sitting there.
Yeah, it turns out lying in wait combined with what is this, critical 6 and impact 4 in the list. Turns out it can kill Darks pretty easy when you don't protect them. So,
all right, yeah. Yeah, I think that's it for this interview. Thanks for hopping on, Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely.
Due to scheduling issues, Brian Bear's interview will be postponed to next week's podcast. Please stay tuned. Thanks.
All right, and we are back here talking about Indy Open after those delicious interviews. So scrumptious even. So okay, let's break down. I want to break down kind of what happened at Indy in terms of like competitive, the meta idea of it, as we say.
List we saw.
So I want to start with our breakdown here. Of the 49 players we had 15 Rebels, which is already ecstatic. 12 Empire, 10 each of Republic and Separatists, and then just 2 Shadow Collective. On top of that, looking at all the 4-1s from Indy Open, 6 of the 9 were White State factions. We had 4 CIS, which I don't know where they came from. 2 Rebels. 2 Rebels, and then 1 each of Empire, Republic, and Shadow Collective. Thoughts on that? Anyone?
It's a good spread. I'm like really happy to see that because like as I was saying in the break, like Indy is the only city Rebels are playable in, apparently, because everything is bad. And here we are, just proving them wrong. Though I will argue about the white safe action thing. One of those lists is like predominantly red safes.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Brian's list doesn't. I guess.
That doesn't count.
I guess that doesn't count because in reference to this list, Mr. Brian Bear, We Bear, Mr. FD, as the Trooper has officially nominated him. He was running the triple Mandos.
Mandalorian Resistance.
Mandalorian Resistance. Generic Mandos for Rebels. Fully loaded to the brim with defensive tech. He has 4 fleet troopers, 3 of which had medbots, 2 rebel officers with vigilance, and then Boba, Rebel Boba with his Seas and Flamer. So we can touch upon that now, or touch on it a little later. But like, it's a wacky list.
Well, I think this is like one of the first times since Mandalorians have been released in this game where they've made a top cut.
There was a Mando Cassian list make the waves when they first came out.
Was there?
Back in the day? Yeah,
I don't remember that, but might
there
be
was.
true.
Luke Cook used to play it.
Yeah. Does that count?
Does that count? I don't know if that counts, but like I just remember being like, oh, maybe they are good, and then ever since then they kind of were wiped. Like nobody played them because they're so save dependent. And Riot has essentially taken all of the save math out of it as much as possible.
Well, then they're good, right? If they were bad because of the save math, if you take that away, they're good, right? That's how that works.
Yeah, that's how that works.
Which is
right.
crazy.
If you just don't have to make saves, you just
right.
Yeah.
Because like you feel like that would work for a lot of things, but like apparently they don't have like the dice.
Maybe it does. I don't know.
Ability to do this.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I mean, the duelist, the best guy duelist, because like every time I walk past him, he had like all of them in melee. So like I feel like the duelist really does help like keep them alive with like anything that wants to be.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting because I mean, if you can get a dodge on them consistently in melee, they can hold up against pierce swings pretty well. Yeah.
That pierce immunity rules, like those lightsaber, and then they have good saves behind that, so like they really don't crumble as badly.
So
absolutely,
I want to say something on top of that, in terms of meta and how much we don't play it out in Indy here. Apparently, I was looking through the Empire list here really quickly just to make sure that I was right about it. But there was all across the whole event, there were only 3 lists that had Dark Troopers in them, and I believe we didn't have a single Blizzard Force. Or if we did,
we had one. There was one Blizzard Force.
Okay, we had one Blizzard. He did not have 4 bikes. So.
Let me double check that.
No, I'm looking at it right now. So,
okay.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so he only had 3 bikes.
Okay, I believe that was Logan set. Yep. So that was his list. I believe he is a local, kind of a newer player, which is great to see more of. Laughing Avalanche, I love the name, first off. But it is just 3 bikes. And he's upgraded it to Commander Vader since Operative Vader has been removed.
Upgrade is subjective.
I think it's an upgrade.
We can,
but I won't.
I will. We can dive in a little that.
Yeah, I will save that for another time. But yeah, that's my take.
That is. But the other thing that I noted was there was 3 Dark Trooper lists. One of them was triple darks, which I loved and I adored that list because it goes from like a super try-hard competitive thing to like, triple darks. Triple darks are fun. And then there was, of course, 2 like standardized Dark Trooper lists.
Yes, and I think the two standard Dark Trooper lists had to actually even play each other. They had the mirror match, unfortunately, day 2.
Yeah, yes, I watched that match.
Oh yeah,
watching
fair the rest of us.
It was kind of fun to watch. It's like, let them fight.
Get the Godzilla thing in there. Like
just, but I think it's funny. Our top 8 didn't have any Empire in it. If I'm correct.
Technically not, because
not.
Adam Knopf was our one Empire representative in like the 4-on-1 group, and he was last on SOS, so can't really hold that against him. I won't at least.
Yeah,
because
he was
Yeah.
right, sitting right, very right. I think his SOS was like 1.5, and the next one up was 1.56. So he's right
real
outside
close.
top 8,
just right there.
in 9th. So 9th and 10th for both Empire.
But still, the one it is the one Empire list. Still has triple X, so I will say that. But it is a Callus Iden list now, which I love.
Ooh.
So I think I want to hear, what was your most interesting list each of you saw? If you had to pick one, like what was just either whether it was a shocker, it was your favorite, or just something that kind of excited you from the Indy Open. Like what was a list that really stood out?
Um,
I'll let you guys think on that, and I will
I have to
go.
process.
I have an answer. It was the Grievous list that did really well.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm just loving what's happening there.
Yeah, so for those that weren't there, the Grievous list is Grievous and was it 3 Black Sun?
keep in mind that there is a cut for it now.
Yeah.
We are recording it.
Yeah.
Grigley was in the top 4.
Right.
He's
Yeah,
the
he
one,
was.
he's one of your interviews, sir.
Oh yes, but I just want to repeat it again, just in case
Okay.
somebody jumps in
Okay.
at some point.
It's my fault. I brought it up as one of like my
No,
favorite
it's okay.
lists. Blame me.
But yeah, so I think it's 9 acts. I'm looking at it now. T series with Grievous, 3 Black Suns with the Magdet Enforcers, Vigos, grenades, all the good stuff. 3 battle droids with E5S critical guns, and 1 Magna. So just a lot of beef.
Yeah, it's just efficiency.
I love that because like I haven't wanted to make a Grievous or Dooku triple Black Sun list for a while, and I'm like, oh, it's possible. If Grievous could do it, Dooku could do it.
I will say that there is a fair amount of Grievous 2-pip helping a lot there because you're able to just guardian those Black Suns and whatnot.
That's a smart idea. That's a good idea. See here, what other list did I like?
I would say my personal favorite has the name of Jazz Hands and the Rocket Man Flaming Lizard Shuffle.
Our local boy.
The Cincinnati local.
Mason Davis, yeah. He aptly won best list name. But I love this list because it is as he should have. Because it's Palpatine with Mando. And then double do-bags with the flame rifles, which I can go on a rant about for like at least an hour about why the flame rifle is better. But we'll save that for later. And then
let's do that.
rounding it out with Protector IRG, and then your storms kind of covering the impact angle and whatnot. I love this list because there's a lot. It's like it doesn't look like there's a lot of options, but it's very explosive.
And Mason also won. So we do bounty boards out of most of the events that I run. So he won the most immobilization tokens given out. I think he was up to 33 after 5 games. 35 after 5 games. So 35 immobilization tokens. Palpatine's 1 pip. And then the Ambam in melee. So there's just a lot given out there. My favorite list is probably we've got a local guy, Noah, super fun guy. I love playing games with Noah. And so he actually brought double land speeders, which is like an Indianapolis special almost at this point. Like he didn't confer with any of us before bringing this, so I was like, man, moment of pride here. Seeing double land speeders. So it's Han double land speeder, which is crazy. Like it's nice to normally you throw a hero in both, so he did great only having like just land speeders fly at your face and Han kind of doing his own thing, which was awesome. So that was probably my favorite.
So I had to just quickly scroll through them because I was trying to remember all the lists I saw. But
after 49,
after just walking around. But forever, my favorite is David's Blanchard. It's Anakin Obi-Wan list.
Oh man,
bringing Obi-Wan back out because I love Obi-Wan. I miss Obi-Wan so much. And I'm just happy to get Obi-Wan represented. I know David traditionally played like Yoda, Anakin a lot.
Oh, he was on that kick for a while.
He was on that forever. But now he's like, I'm trying out Obi-Wan instead of Yoda, and I'm just like, I'm just happy to see Obi-Wan hit the table.
I
Do
saw a
well.
tear in your eye. I saw a tear in your eye when you saw
it was there. And he's top Republic player. It's made 7th off of SOS. Like that's good. 4-1. Like double Jedi works.
Yeah, and I think part of that, David did such a good job. He was playing Anakin and Yoda for so long, like trying to find all the right timing for that. Going, I don't want to say downgrading, but downgrading to Obi-Wan from Yoda. It's like it's the options for like what Obi's gonna do is so much more seamless. It's not like I've got to worry about like trying to factor in the guidance of all of that. And so he just rolled with it. And every time I walked by his game, he would just be like, all right, now this guy's going to swing into this. And then, all right, Anakin's going to jump into this. And it's just like, oh man, he just had 2 Jedi in his opponent's face pretty much every game.
He's present.
So the one thing I do want to touch on really quickly here, in terms of like meta versus not meta, we did see one of the other 4-1 lists, the one Shadow list, Jacob Bryson, did bring back Maul Pikes. Which
yes.
I have my own opinions about it because I have PTSD. But
that's fair. That's valid, and we understand you.
It is a good list. It has remained a good list, and this kind of proves it. Even with point cuts and everything, even only at 9 and everything, I still think it's it's obviously performed. It's also kind of reminds me of my game versus Kentucky Dan back out in Rocky Top a little while ago. He had a very similar list, and it performed very, very similarly. So it's kind of interesting that Shadow Collective has just kind of fallen off the face of the earth, despite them always performing well. Because I think at this event they had like a 70% win rate or something like that. They were 7-3, 70%. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think it still did really solid. Like the pike spam is extremely efficient, and I really like the version that he brings because he's got double vigilance in that. So he's got 3 capos, 2 of them have vigilance, and 1 has improvised. So not a whole lot of suppression mitigation, besides just maybe playing Maul's card. But I do like the double vigilance. Like he's definitely got some beef there. To weather a lot. So,
as somebody who played that list and took that list to Gen Con, the Maul Pike Spam is good still. Like, I don't really feel like it lost a whole lot of love. I mean, I think Maul kind of, you have to play a little bit more careful now than you used to with the flex change. But
yeah,
overall, I do think, and he did kind of eat it on the choke.
He did.
The choke nerfing. Now, but I don't know. I guess it kind of low-key frees up that second 4 slot. Or Joke is actually still not terrible on him to get him out of melee.
The one fun idea I've seen in that topic for Maul Pikes is you put barrier on Maul in that choke slot.
I actually agree. I think that's a good play now.
You make everyone hate their lives even more than when the Pikes came out.
What are wounds?
You're the worst, Adam. You're the worst.
Like, oh, you have a sniper? No, you don't. I don't care.
No.
I'm going to go
No.
every turn.
I think it's just one of those things. There's less options there, so people kind of move away from it.
That's fair. It is.
It's still a good list. I still have nightmares of that gun line. Looking at Andrew.
He played into it a lot. Because
I think it's very efficient, but I agree with Marvin. I think that it's one of those, because it's a battle force, there's not as many options. It's a snapshot of a few episodes. And I think, honestly, once we see more people play Shadow Collective, I think it'll be the Mandalorians with, them getting kind of the points cut and everything that people
my voice.
But I do agree. It's I think it's the same thing that happened with like Kalani spiders, because that list won 4 events in a row, and then nobody brought spiders again.
Yeah, it was just
nothing
gone.
changed. It just disappeared.
Yep, it's gone. People get tired of it. They want to go play with their new toys, and I don't blame them. I'm the same way.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So I want to use your guys' expertise while you're still here, and we'll talk a little bit more about TOing in a second here. But I just did want to give a shout out over to Weston. Throbabin. I'm butchering that last name, and I love it. And then of course Gregory, and then of course Trent. the other guys that went 4-1 that we haven't called out here while we're talking. Tyler doesn't deserve one. He's playing droids.
Tyler doesn't deserve a shout out.
Tyler,
Sorry, Tyler.
Tyler gets a shout out as soon as he comes back on. How about that?
He got an interview, dude.
Oh shit, you're right.
He got one out of just, I don't even know. Why did we give him an interview again? Just kidding, Tyler, kind of. I mean, honestly, at all this, he threw shots at Adam in his article recently, so Adam's just firing him back. It's,
All right. So, as you guys mentioned, you, Marvin and Andrew, out here TOing over in Cincy. Then, of course, Matt building up the indie scene. Kind of wanted to touch a little bit on building a scene, kind of everything, because if you look around, kind of like across the nation, there's a couple hotspots, like Denver, Indy, Florida, but like there's not like a lot of other like big name areas like that. And so that I don't know if that's just people haven't built scenes up to that point, or if they haven't built any at all. But I would say, question for all of you to start off with would be, where do you start with building a scene?
So with us, as we were coming out of the pandemic, our scene had basically died. We had a little bit of a scene beforehand, but it basically had gone away. So coming out, we kept complaining, God, I wish somebody would run a tournament around here. And then after a couple of months of complaining about that, we were just like, why don't we just run a tournament?
Yeah. It's kind of one of those, I'm complaining that there's not a scene here. Oh, I can solve that. There are those hot spots where people play. I don't, a scene. Typically, those start around stores. Typically, but it's you go to your store, talk to your friendly local gaming store, talk to the owners, the people that run it. It's like, hey, I want to do an event. Can we post it up? And we'll just do it low key. Typically, they're pretty open to it because it only benefits them. And it really only benefits you. And it's just kind of one of those things you just got to get over the hurdle of, crap, I don't want to do it. It sounds like it's a lot of work, because it is. But, if you want to play the game, you work on it, and it does start to snowball after a while. It'll be really, really slow for months and months and months, and then it'll start to pick up, and it'll kind of build on itself and build on itself and build on itself.
Yeah, and I think I agree with all that for sure. Like, it's really just learning to jump in and kind of take those first steps. That's the hardest part. I mean, the key is to start off, find a local game store, even if it's only semi-local to you, that's willing to kind of commit the resources and the space, either for regular play or for events, or whatever it is that you need to kind of build up that scene. And you might even kind of gauge your scene. Like, do you have a lot of people playing Legion nearby and there just aren't events? Or do you just need to kind of build people in and kind of start teaching them? And so, like, do you need to start having learn to play days? Do you need to start having, skirmish days just to get people into the game and start playing? I don't recommend skirmish, but it is a great way for people to kind of learn some of the mechanics better than just the learning game out of the box. And so it's kind of finding a store and building those connections. I know for me personally, the next thing I did coming out of COVID was I just started traveling. I was really hungry for playing games out of COVID, and so I went to Fort Wayne, I went to Jasper, I went to Cincinnati, I went to Louisville, I went to anywhere within a 2-hour drive that I could find that was holding Legion events. And then when I would go, I just kind of talk to people. That's kind of how Andrew and Marvin and I actually met, and it was just showing up at their events, and you make those kind of network connections, and then you can say, oh, hey, let's coordinate, and I'll come to your events, and then you can kind of come to my events, and we'll coordinate schedules and make sure that we help promote those events. That way your locals can, if they're interested in coming to our events, we can kind of help promote that, and vice versa. And so you just kind of snowball with networking and connections, small communities.
Another thing that I want to shout out with us, we moved a lot of Legion products some of our stores.
Yeah.
We literally
Tends to help.
anytime I was either playing there or we were having events, one big thing I would do recommend people do is don't plan your own events. Really, like take a step back.
Yeah. Don't do that.
I know you want to play, and I know that like it feels counterintuitive because you're like, oh, these people are finally playing. I finally have a thing. Really, like take the second. If people are going to come into the store, most likely, especially if it's like a more popular one, and they're going to take a look because it's Star Wars. It's going to look cool. Pitch it to them. Walk them through it. Offer them to run a demo game if they have time that afternoon. I ran a lot of impromptu demo games. Bring your army, your whole army. Bring everything that you own to these events and just let them play with your models for as long as you can.
And especially the nice, like pretty ones, like ATSTs. Like, don't let them play with just stormtroopers. Let them play with something that's fun, iconic,
or Jedi or something.
Yeah.
So, I would say follow-up question to that. Then you've mentioned bringing your armies and everything. So, but let's say we've got our store that's interested. We've got a casual player or a tournament. What else do you need to bring as a TO besides this army? Besides your
army, you might not need to bring terrain, but it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that depends. That depends on the shop. Depending if you can. I know it's hard to get it, so it's a lot of work. But it does help. Makes it cool to talk to the shop. They might already have Star Wars stuff. Game's been around for a while now.
Definitely, but Star Wars themed terrain definitely helps sell it really well.
Yeah,
it really does because it looks cool and people are like, "Oh, that's a TIE fighter." That they're hiding behind. That's rad. Like that's eye catching, even if they're not playing with the ATSTs or things that are more.
Yeah, that helps. But bring that and maybe some tables, maybe not. Beyond that,
prize support. And that can be really easy though. Card sleeves or prize support. Any promos you've accumulated over.
Talk to the shop. Talk to the shop if you're running stuff. Like kits exist. They're out in the wild now. They're relatively easy for some shops to get.
Yeah, and I do think that's very much key. Like for me, I've got a big checklist anymore for running TOs, but I didn't get to that point right away. If your shop can supply terrain if you need, if you don't have it, and that's okay because not everyone's going to have 10 tables of Legion terrain. But if your shop doesn't have stuff, you can always kind of go, there's lots of tutorials online of making terrain out of cheap pink foam or cardboard or, tables don't have to be expensive 3D prints, although they can be.
Right.
You can make a decent table out of $50 of just supplies.
Yeah, then there's definitely tables I like more that are like probably $25-$50 worth of pink foam versus my 3D printed stuff, and I'm just looking there kind of sad. Like
toys, bargain bin
toys, Mission Fleet stuff, bargain bin toys, great. There's so many Star Wars stuff floating around. Collectors grab up some of the stuff, but
old beat up toys are great.
All the time. Use them all the time.
Yeah, I would say the best example of that I can think of is, Matt, you have like a good old U-Wing toy that you use for a bunch of maps, and it looks amazing all the time.
It is one of my favorites. It's actually a Hasbro. It actually came out, I think it's one of the Kickstarter release ones, but I found it in a used bin for $20.
A lot of the old Hasbro stuff is in basically the right scale. The Mission Fleet stuff, a lot of it's right and basically the right scale. It looks great. I have a Razor Crest I bought and did nothing to, and it just pop looks great.
Yep, looks great.
And also just like ask if you're your local scene, ask around. People are going to have terrain from other games that are playing this game. Sometimes there might be someone that's built up their own like home table.
Yeah, and I think so. Once you kind of have built up your scene a little bit, once you start running your events, once you feel like you've got your TO checklist down. I wish I had Brent on the podcast tonight. He was my other TO that just wasn't. He's got his own things usually on Thursday nights. So I'll shout out to Rule the Galaxy podcast. You should go listen to that. But that's his gift right there. So, but one of the great things you can start doing is just to make sure that people are enjoying their experience and having a good time. Brent and I have been TOing at this point for a couple events, and Brent is my normal backup go-to TO. And he and I joke that he's not really my TO, he's my buffer. He's there to literally walk around and schmooze the entire room, ask people how their game is going, make jokes about their armies. I mean, he is literally there just to make sure that the environment is casual, that it is relaxed, that people, even if they're winning or losing, that they are having a good time, that they are engaged in what they're doing, and just in general, just there to make sure that the atmosphere is right. And that's something you definitely need, especially as you're building that Legion scene. Make sure that if you have newer players, they can show up to events and still enjoy themselves and still have a great time. No one wants to build up a scene right out of the get-go, and it's completely just, 5 sweaty guys that ruin it for the rest of the 20.
Right. Yeah.
Say-
Yeah.
Well,
Your best gauge is like, I'm a new player. Like, I love this is my first tournament kind of thing. I was like, okay, what kind of time are you having? Because that's how I'm gauging if my thing's a success or not.
Absolutely.
well, do you guys have any tips on how to help someone have a good time if they're a new player?
Yeah, so what I like to do is that's why part of why we do bounty boards. I normally check in with like where's the tournament going, and make sure people know ahead of time, like, hey, here's what the bounties are, and you'll even get a lot of players. Oh, when I'm talking to people, like trying to get them, asking if they're coming to the events. Oh, I'm not really sure. Like, it'll be my first tournament. Hey, that's okay. Like, even if you lose all your games, here's some ways you can win prizes. Here's some fun things you can do. Ways to kind of keep them engaged with the game and know that they don't have to feel like they came in and dropped 20, $25 on this event and they're just going to walk out getting their butt handed to them. Like, there's still ways for them to stay engaged with the event and have a good time, even if they lose all their games. So that's been very successful to me, to just kind of find ways that they can focus on things other than just winning 4 matches or however many matches they need. Like, they can still stay engaged with the event.
That's a good idea. We should because we don't really do bounty boards.
We don't really do bounty boards. One of the things I like to do is I like to hand out, make sure everybody gets something. And that's because I'm farther along in building this. I have access to my own resin printer. I hand out miniatures at all my events. Matt, you can verify that.
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
You gave him 40 Ewoks. I'm not excited about that.
I did do that. I did, in fact, do that. You're correct. I gave him 40 Ewoks that day. I've given him more than 40 Ewoks.
Yeah. Marvin and Andrew, I feel bad because it's like I kind of put a target on your back because they gave me 40 Ewoks and the rest of the garrison guys are like now eyeballing me, waiting for me to croak.
I have made lists specifically with 4 or 5 flamethrowers. Just
if they want Ewoks themselves, they just have to ask.
Looking at you, Brent. Brent, this is your sign as to whether or not you listen to the podcast.
Reach out to me. That's one of the things. I bought a cheap resin printer. I print minis. I like to give those out. Everybody gets something. People love getting just a free mini. That kind of stuff was going on, and just chatting with if things aren't going crazy, walking around just chatting with the people that are playing the game is great. Especially the guys that aren't doing great on the record. They're not always feeling down, but sometimes doing down, just joking around, hanging out, showing that hey, it's still a chill thing. And you're not always going to win. It's fine, but some people don't take it well, and that's just step in, be good. And those little things, like I said, I would like to do bounty boards. That's one of the things that I want to move to. But again, I'm just popping around here, have an Ewok kind of thing.
Or we also do we do try to make sure we do participation prizes because people get excited when they first walk in, they get some stuff. It like immediately is like it's not a loss on your time. The community, I would say 90% of Legion players are very chill, very fun people to play against, even when you are losing to them. So I do think that helps a lot, and make sure you just foster that. If you can, and I have done this before, where I've specifically paired I know this person's new or this is their first tournament. I'm gonna pair them with somebody I know who will at least be a fun opponent, even if they will still win.
That is the nice thing is we have such a good Legion community that wants to band together and make the community good and fun and inviting and non-toxic. We had a guy that was having some I don't want to say he was having health issues, but he was having a little bit of stress day 2, and so he needed to kind of take a break, and so we had a couple of our TOs, Brent was the first one to notice it. His opponent even stepped in and kind of said, hey, like, do you need a snack? Do you need to sit down? Do you need to do anything? Like, completely subsided with his game that's literally timed for 2.5 hours. Like, that was secondary. The player was more important. We wanted to make sure that they were, taken care of, and everything was great. And so that's the kind of community that we have that's amazing and wants to band together to make sure that we're all safe and having an enjoyable experience rather than the actual sweat of the game, which we all care about. We all want to win, but also that's secondary.
It's one of the things in this game, and the community does great, but like the best games are the collaborative ones, right? I know we're competing, but like we're both also sitting here telling a story. The ones you remember, the games you remember, it was because your opponent and you were kind of crafting that together.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's like my most memorable game from Rocky Top is when, like, I jumped Ahsoka onto a giant piece of height 2 terrain, and it's Bosk lying in wait turn. And I was like, oh crap. Bosk lying in wait, she's at half health. Bosk shoots. And my opponent rolls, and after I spend a dodge, and he and I both look at each other, and she's like, well, Bosk is dead because she just deflected 4. And it's like, I don't know what to do. He didn't know what to do, but like we both laughed about it afterwards, and it's super memorable. Like, that's not a game I'm going to forget.
Right.
But it was a very enjoyable experience for both of us after the game.
So, okay, one thing I wanted to go back to really quickly, mentioning like participation prizes and stuff. So, for someone that doesn't really have access to a resin printer, someone that doesn't have access to a store kit either, or anything like that, do you have any good ideas for like what you can give out for prize support in that sense, or anything like that?
That's a great question. So there are some great resources. There is a TO Discord. If you cannot find it, feel free to reach out to like myself. I think Marvin and Andrew, you guys are in that too, correct?
Yes.
So they have a prize support channel. I know like Cammy's cards are really big. They've got Baron of Dice. So there's a lot of different things that they can kind of either throw some prize support funds at to get those resources. I think 6-Up Supply does some token kits and things like that. So those are some like pre-made stuff that you can get, but you can also look into, like custom-made card sleeves are pretty easy. Like you can find resources for that online.
Yep. And nowadays with the Star Wars TCGs and stuff coming back around, there should hopefully be some Star Wars card sleeves back on the market. I know there's like one now, but
yeah,
that should be happening. And the other thing is people love getting terrain.
Yeah.
People love getting terrain. You could make some pink foam rocks, spray paint them, dry brush them, give them out as prizes.
Yep. It gives them something to throw on the table at home so that they can play with their family or in a prep game or, yep, absolutely.
Okay. I think one last question here, and then we're hitting a good spot for time, is one thing that's been mentioned, I think you mentioned at least, connections. Connections as a TO are super important, as is every aspect of like connections are important. What is the easiest way to make those connections in a Legion scene? Because it's different than like, if you would for like work and stuff like that.
Right. I would say personally, jump onto the Discord. We're all floating around, and then use that to go to the tournaments. There's posted upcoming tournaments. Go there, network, talk to the people that are kind of milling about. Talk to your opponents. Talk about where you're from. And that's really how you make connections with the bigger scene beyond just like running your local stuff and kind of putting out through the stores.
Yeah. I think that's definitely the answer. And I don't know about Marvin and Andrew, but I know Adam and I are both giant introverts. I've actually had to kind of like raise my extrovertness because I work in communications and I didn't have a choice. Like that was just part of the monster that I got into.
Yeah.
But I think that's for me that's more difficult than it appears sometimes. But I think being connected to the Discords, just jumping in and kind of finding a play group, which is not always easy. But even then it's getting online and finding other play groups and making those, personal connections. And
I will actually say, make your own. If there's not one in your local area, that's what me and Andrew did. We made our own. We made a poster. We talked to the shops, put it up in the shops. It's only, again, it's for most of them, it's only a benefit for them because we're selling more product. People are going to come to their stores. You've no idea how many core sets I have sold I cannot have
Yeah.
one shop keep
Yeah.
them in stock. People come in asking for them. It's like, no, we just sold it. So they're usually pretty fine with that. And make your own. They connect, because stores will have their own little networks that has 5 to 10 to 20, 30 players, but they don't talk to anyone else and don't know that the other shops have that community. So if there's not one in your local area, you don't know about one, make your own. Do it, and people will jump in and chat.
Absolutely.
I will say about the introvertedness, Legion has like the inbuilt best thing. So like I agree with the traveling, but like it's the best thing about it is you will give, when you go to a tournament, you're given an opponent that is somebody you have to talk to for 2.5 hours.
That's true. That's true.
And you're supplied with their name, so you don't even have to do the awkward.
Yeah, you know who they, you know their name. It's great. Do that introduction. But yeah, you're stuck there. I definitely have had opponents that like we were quiet and didn't want to talk to each other in the beginning, and we're chatting and joking after 2 hours, because it would be maddening if we didn't do that. We're going to open up just because as how the game's going. So yeah, that's someone you're already talking to. You already get to know. So
yeah, that's how I got to know Matt so well, because we actually played at one of y'all's tournaments up there.
Yeah, I think we started at a North Side event here in Indianapolis, getting ready for Adepticon.
Yes.
And I was like, "Oh, who are you guys?" And we're like, "Oh, I'm going to Adepticon." I was like, "Oh, we're going to Adepticon."
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like, hey, yeah. Now we know, and there's also the benefit that everyone playing this game has at least one thing in common. Theoretically, is they like Star Wars.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just done it easy, right? You have something to talk about.
All right. You guys have anything else you want to talk about with TOing? Anything like that?
I think the only other thing I want to mention is if you're looking to build a scene, you're looking to run events, don't let knowing all the rules stop you from TOing.
Absolutely not. No.
Like there is forums, there's rule books, there's a whole big, if you're in the Legion Discord, there's a rules channel where they can help you out with that. If you're in the TO Discord, they also have a judges thing. They can help you out with that. So you'll learn very quickly, unfortunately, probably by fire. But that's not a bad thing. Like you're going to learn the rules very quickly, because you're going to have players ask you things and you'll say, I don't know what that is. And then you might have to pull up it on your phone or flip through the book that you've printed out and just kind of look it up. But don't let that stop you from running events.
I would say the one important thing that you haven't mentioned here is Fifth Trooper has a thing called Legion Quick Guide, which has all the keywords, all the everything you would ever need. Super easy. It's coordinated it's alphabetical and everything. So just easy as pie to just pull it up on your phone. And
it works great on phone too. Keep it tapped on your phone. If you're running an event, that'll save you 90% of the time, except for weird edge cases where you got to go to the forum anyway. If you didn't kind of know the answer.
I looked up so many things. Like I would be like, when I was doing Indy Open, people would ask me questions. I'd be like, I'm pretty sure it's this, but I'm gonna look that up really quick. I even did that for Adam's game. When I was like looking at my phone, I'm like, let me look. And then if you have somebody else helping you out, like if you have like a friend like Marvin and I do it together, you have somebody else to ask, and they will like give you their interpretation. Or if you know in your area, if you have very experienced players, you can quickly step over there and ask them. They might know the answer. If you don't immediately know, just like lean on that sort of thing. Like other people might know.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to touch on is like, is that don't let the fear of not knowing all the rules, and don't let the fear of not being experienced running things, because all of us started there, and it's fine. You're going to make mistakes. We all did. You're going to have things play out. That's not how I went in my head. That's fine. Just do it. You'll get better. It'll be fine. The community will be supportive. Most of them won't even really notice the mistakes you make because they're having a good time. It's great.
They'll just be happy that somebody's doing it, that they
right.
do it.
Right, because you're sitting there thinking, man, I wish someone would run a tournament. There's a bunch of other people that are thinking the same thing, and you're the one doing it. So they're already going to give you some benefit of the doubt regardless, because like you're doing it.
Yeah.
All right. If there's nothing else, any other shout outs, anything else you guys want to touch on before we close out here?
Yeah, I know there's a slew of invites coming up, but let's let the Cincinnati guys plug anything they got going on first.
Well, in July 8th, we have our first invite, first of three that we're going to do.
First of three.
that we're gonna do down at Three Brothers Games in Hebron, Kentucky. So if you live in the Midwest or you want to drive, or if you don't live in the Midwest, you really want to drive, or fly or whatever. It's actually 2 exits down from the Covington from the Cincinnati airport. If you're really, really dedicated to it.
You really want that invite?
Really want that invite. I have a couple slots left. Sign up on Game of Link because I'm just limited by shop size at this point. Though I might have a drop or two if somebody swings in last minute that I can fit another table.
Which always happens.
Yeah. I expect that to happen, and then because it just does. And then I'm already scrounging for space, but like we can take down a display, right? It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
And then we do have another one coming up in early fall-ish. We haven't worked on an exact date with that. We're still trying to coordinate with a lot of other communities. But that will be at Tactical Retreat Games, which is on the east side of Cincinnati. So stay posted for that. I'll post that in the main Discord.
Yeah, everything's posted in the main Discord. And then I think the third one's going to be in November probably.
Yes,
but
it's
that one
going to be late November, early December.
I have no idea on that one because we're dodging around everybody else's because we want to go to them too. So
yeah, that's true.
That is kind of the name of the game these days. I feel like everyone's trying to plan their invites around the other invites.
It's great. I love it.
There's so many.
So many. Your guys' is the 8th. Your guys' is the 8th, and then there's one in Muncie, Indiana, at Atomic Comics and Games. Not Atomic Mass, Atomic Comics and Games on the 15th, so the week after. And then I believe one of the last 2 weeks, I think, I don't have a confirmed date yet, there will be an invite tournament in Champaign, Illinois. So I will post that event once we get more info.
I know
our event. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I know there's also going to be one in Cleveland the weekend before Gen Con, which I believe is
the 29th?
July 29th. Yeah. Right? Yeah, July 29th.
Yes. Okay.
One in Cleveland at the game. The shop.
The shop.
The shop, yes. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I do know where that is. I've been there.
Yes, we know.
Yeah. Yes. And then I believe there will be ours September 9th here at Game Preserve Greenwood. We say Greenwood, but it's in Indianapolis, Indiana. That'll be September 9th, if I'm quoting that right. And we'll get a list of these posted in the Discord. But lots of invite tournaments coming up. I believe there's one for Hard Knocks Games in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. I don't remember the date of that off the top of my head, unfortunately.
Neither do I. They were kind of wishy-washy.
I think they didn't have it confirmed when we talked at Indy Open.
Okay.
They didn't tell exactly what date it was.
I think they had bounced around September, I think last I had heard, but that wasn't confirmed.
Yeah.
Okay. But we will get all those posted. Are you guys doing CincyCon? Can I ask about that?
We are trying. We are in talks with them right now. It's just not confirmed yet. But if we are doing CincyCon, we will be announcing
We are trying.
It will be a big 32-person tournament. I do have the weekend for that. So that's when the con is.
Yeah, because it's set.
It is October 27th through the 29th. It's going to be the con. So the tournament will probably be the 28th and the 29th.
Perfect.
And we will be trying, fingers crossed, to get at least one world invite for that if we are going to do it.
Gotcha. Like I said, we're in talks with the con. We just need allocated space and confirming. So we will see.
Okay.
But yes, we are.
Sounds good.
So many.
It should be good.
So many shout outs, yeah.
So busy. It's great.
Yes, there's a lot going on.
Do we have any other content? Anything else, or are we good?
No, sir.
All right. Do we have any fun life advice? Give these people something they need. Okay.
I have one. Remember to put air in your spare tires.
Ooh, yeah, that's fair.
My spare tires needs air?
Yeah. It does leak air vent.
That's true.